In 1933, during the Japanese occupation of China, a construction worker discovered something buried beneath the mud. At first glance, it looked human. But the deeper he stared into its hollow eye sockets, the more impossible it became. The skull was enormous, too large, too ancient, too strange. And in that moment, he understood something else. If occupying forces discovered it, the artifact would vanish forever. So under the cover of darkness, he carried the skull home. Rain fell across the empty streets. His hands trembled. Then he lowered it into a well, and for nearly 90 years, the face disappeared. The skull remained hidden through war, revolution, and the collapse of empires. Entire generations lived and died, while something ancient waited beneath the earth. Then, in 2018, moments before his death, the worker finally revealed the secret. His family returned to the well. Ropes creaked in the darkness. Dust drifted through the air. And what they pulled back into the light stunned scientists. The brain size matched modern humans, but everything else felt disturbingly different. The skull was wider, heavier, more powerful than almost anything in the human fossil record. Even the teeth were enormous. For decades, the skull remained hidden beneath the earth. Wars came and went, governments collapsed, entire generations disappeared, and still the face waited in darkness. Then, in 2018, moments before his death, the worker finally revealed the secret he had carried his entire life. His family returned to the abandoned well. Ropes creaked softly in the dark. Dust drifted through the cold air. And what they pulled back into the light stunned scientists. At first, the measurements made no sense. The brain size matched modern humans, but everything else felt disturbingly ancient. The skull was wider, heavier, more powerful than almost anything in the human fossil record. Thick brow ridges cast shadows over nearly square eye sockets. Even the teeth were enormous. Researchers believe the individual stood nearly 6'3" and somehow survived into his 50s. In Ice Age China, that was almost unimaginable. Then came the first controversial claim. Researchers announced the skull belonged to an entirely new human species, Homo longi, dragon man. And according to their analysis, this ancient giant may have been more closely related to us than the Neanderthals. If true, it would rewrite the entire human family tree. But many scientists remained skeptical. The skull was too unusual, too incomplete, and far too old for DNA. Normally, that would have ended the investigation. The fossil was simply too old. Any surviving DNA should have vanished thousands of years ago. But hidden deep inside the bone, researchers found something unexpected. Ancient proteins. Unlike fragile strands of DNA, these molecular structures can survive for hundreds of thousands of years. And suddenly, the investigation was alive again. Scientists extracted the preserved proteins and compared them against ancient human records. The results didn't match modern humans. They didn't match Neanderthals either. For a moment, researchers were staring at a ghost. Then the molecular pattern aligned. Denisovan. An ancient human species science had spent years trying to understand without ever truly seeing its face. Before this discovery, the Denisovans were almost invisible in the fossil record. Their entire existence had been traced from a single finger bone found inside a remote Siberian cave. An entire branch of humanity known almost entirely through genetics. But now, for the first time, the ghost had a face. And strangely, researchers believe a Denisovan walking through a modern city today might not immediately stand out, because despite their ancient origins, part of them still survives. Data shows Denisovans overlapped with modern humans for thousands of years. They hunted the same frozen landscapes, survived the same brutal winters, and walked beneath the same Ice Age skies. For millennia, two intelligent human species shared the same world. Then, gradually, the physical presence of the Denisovans vanished from the fossil record. Not through sudden extinction, but through something far more complicated. They began to merge with us. Today, millions of people across Asia and the Pacific still carry Denisovan DNA inside their bodies, ancient genes passed down across tens of thousands of years. Some of those inherited traits continue to provide extraordinary advantages, including the ability to survive at extreme altitudes where oxygen levels should be deadly. Modern Tibetan populations still carry that adaptation today, a biological gift inherited from a vanished species. Which means the Denisovans never truly disappeared. Part of them still walks among us. When the worker sealed the skull inside that well in 1933, he believed he was hiding an artifact. Instead, he preserved a missing chapter of human history, because the line separating ancient humans from ourselves was never as clear as we once believed. And the face staring back from the darkness isn't entirely extinct. Part of it still lives inside us.